Good day everyone. This will serve as our recorded lecture for Module 5 ng UAS, and it is about the aspects of airframe design. So for this module, we need to cover 6 major topics. First, we need to discuss the factors that influence the UAV airframe design. Second, we need to explain the scale effects and understand how aircraft size affects performance and structural requirements. And third, we will analyze packaging density and aerodynamic efficiency. Fourth, we will discuss structures, mechanisms, and propulsion systems. Then fifth, we need to explore the modular construction and ancillary equipment ng mga UAVs. And finally, we will look at design considerations for stealth, including acoustic, visual, thermal, and radar signatures. Okay, so unahin natin sa airframe design. The primary objective of a UAV airframe design is similar to that of a manned aircraft. Siyempre, to create an aircraft that is safe, efficient, reliable, and capable of fulfilling its mission. However, UAVs differ in several important ways. Instead of carrying passengers or crew, UAVs carry sensors, cameras, communication equipment, and other mission payloads. Modern UAVs also rely heavily on electronic flight control systems, autopilots, and onboard computers. Another major difference is scale. Many UAVs are significantly smaller than manned aircraft, allowing designers to take advantage of beneficial scaling effects that reduce structural loads and weight requirements. As a result, UAV airframes can often be lighter, more compact, and more specialized than traditional aircraft while still achieving comparable mission objectives. So, proceed tayo kay scale effects. Scale effects refer to the changes in aircraft behavior that occur when an aircraft is made significantly smaller or larger. Modern UAVs range from large strategic aircraft weighing several tons to micro air vehicles or what we call MAVs, weighing less, mostly commonly yan, less than 1 kilogram lang yung bigat nila. As UAVs become extremely small, conventional aircraft scaling laws may no longer apply perfectly. This is because very small UAVs often use different technologies and configurations. For example, yung sa mga micro UAVs natin, they use flexible membrane wings inspired by insects and birds rather than rigid aircraft wings. So, kung magkaiba yung configuration na ginagamit mo dun pa lang sa wings ng UAV mo, matik yan, paano mo apply yung scaling methods na ginagamit natin sa design. Kasi nga, again, when we are scaling, nilalakihan or nililiitan lang natin yung reference size natin or reference aircraft. Pero once na nagbabago ka na ng mismong design ng isang component or part ng aircraft mo, you can't use na, ipaparehas ko siya dun sa scaling na ginawa ko sa ibang aircraft. So, yun lang naman yung sinasabi dito sa scale effects. The next, papasok na si Freud. Alam ko, Freud basa dito eh. Freud scaling. This is a concept used in scaling analysis. It is a dimensionless parameter that compares inertial forces with gravitational forces. Engineers use this to understand how vehicles of different sizes behave dynamically. A useful analogy comes from biology. Small and large animals have similar structural arrangements, but larger animals require thicker and denser bones to support their greater weight. Similarly, larger aircrafts require proportionally stronger structures to carry heavier loads. Smaller UAVs benefit because structural loads increase more slowly than size and weight. This allows lightweight structures to perform effectively while maintaining sufficient strength. Understanding these scaling relationships helps us design UAVs that maximize efficiency without compromising structural integrity. Then next, we have the packaging density. So, alam naman natin na when we are dealing with unmanned aerial vehicles, we have the benefit na going highly dense yung kabuuan ng UAV natin. So, packaging density refers to the amount of mass contained within a given aircraft volume. Because UAVs do not need cockpits, seats, windows, or other life support systems, or even a human pilot to control them, they can achieve much higher packaging density than manned aircrafts. Higher packaging density allows UAVs to become smaller and lighter while carrying similar mission equipment. This reduces drag, improves structural efficiency, and can even lower manufacturing costs. So the ability to pack components efficiently is one of the major reasons UAVs can perform missions with smaller airframes than equivalent manned aircraft. So unlike manned aircraft, UAVs can arrange electronics, sensors, batteries, communication equipment, and support structures in a highly compact manner. This compact arrangement reduces unused internal space and improves overall aircraft efficiency. Smaller aircraft volume usually means a smaller external surface area. This reduces aerodynamic drag and structural weight while maintaining the required payload capability. In practical terms, better packaging density contributes directly to longer endurance, improved fuel economy, and better overall performance. Now, so alam naman natin density equals mass divided by our volume. So if you want to improve your packaging density, either bababaan mo si all-up mass mo or liliitan mo yung volume ng tawag dito. Sorry, either lalakihan mo pala si all-up mass mo or liliitan mo yung volume na kayang i-maintain ng UAV mo. So, papasok ngayon dyan yung problema natin sa aerodynamics kasi although nasa-solve nga natin, sige nga sabihin natin mas maliit siya, mas highly dense, mas cost-effective siya, dito naman na ngayon papasok yung aerodynamic problem ng mga pag-design ng UAVs. The aerodynamic efficiency is one of the most important considerations in UAV design. The ratio of surface area to mass influences how an aircraft responds to atmospheric disturbances such as wind gusts and turbulence. An aircraft with a large surface area and relatively low mass can be more easily disturbed by aerodynamic forces. Conversely, greater mass provides inertia which helps resist those disturbances. So, nabanggit ngayon dito si inertia. Ano ba si inertia? Kung naaalala nyo pa, inertia is the first law ni Newton, di ba? It states na objects at rest remains at rest. Objects at rest remains at rest, and objects in motion will remain in motion unless disturbed by an external force. So, ayun, sinasabi lang naman dito na since mas maliit nga yung UAVs natin, they have smaller inertias. Therefore, kung mas maliit yung inertia mo, mas madali kang magalaw, no? O sabihin natin, yung UAV mo umaandar in a level flight, then tinamaan siya ng downward na wind gust. Sa tingin nyo ba, ano mas madaling magkakaroon ng malakas na disturbance? Yung Airbus 320 or yung UAV natin? Dahil nga mas maliit siya, mas mababa yung inertia niya, mas madali siyang galawin, no? Mas malakas yung effect ng mga external forces natin sa kanya. The next, we have the Reynolds number. As UAVs become smaller, the aerodynamic challenges become more significant because of lower Reynolds number. Naalala pa ba si Reynolds number? Reynolds number is equal to rho VL over mu. So, ano bang sinasabi sa atin ng Reynolds number natin? The Reynolds number is yung parameter nga natin that describes the relationship between inertial forces and the viscous forces in the airflow. So, kanina, na-discuss nga natin yung effect ni inertial forces sa UAV natin. Pagdating naman dito sa Reynolds number, pag mas mababa yung Reynolds number natin, dahil nga, tawag dito, mababa nga yung inertial forces natin. Excuse me. Tumataas ngayon si drag. So, makikita nyo dito sa figure natin na habang ito yung mga pinakamaliliit na UAVs. For example, si WASP third generation. Siya yung pinakamaliit dito sa ilan to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 na given na UAVs. Ngayon, siya yung may pinaka mababang Reynolds number. So, ito yung Reynolds number niya. Then, siya rin yung may pinaka mataas na coefficient of drag. Compared dito sa pinakamabigat, si Global Hawk, yung madalas na example natin ng HALE na UAV. Siya yung may pinakamataas na Reynolds number, then siya rin yung may pinakamababang coefficient of drag. So, we can see here na based on this observation na as your Reynolds number, as your size decreases, your Reynolds number also decreases, but your drag begins to increase. Then, ano pa ba yung naging effect ng Reynolds number natin? Bukod sa drag na tumataas, bumababa rin si lift natin. So, it is a very critical or crucial aspect na kailangan nga natin yung consider in designing our UAV. So, to overcome the aerodynamic challenges faced by small UAVs, designers focus on two key objectives. The first is to maximize packaging density to reduce aircraft size. So, bakit minamaximize si density? Balikan natin si formula ng Reynolds number. Reynolds number is equal to rho VL over mu. So, kung gusto mong pataasin sa Reynolds number natin, dapat mapataas mo si density mo. Okay? Ito, hindi mo naman magagalaw to kasi dynamic viscosity yan di ba? So, ang pwede mo na lang galawin dyan, itong tatlong nasa taas. Either pataasin mo yung density mo or yung velocity ng aircraft mo or its length ng airfoil mo or ng wing mo. Pero ang pinakamadali nga dyan para maging mas efficient pa nga yung aircraft mo, ay pataasin mo na lang yung packaging density niya. Okay? So, another thing, the second is by optimizing the external aerodynamic shape of the fuselage and the wings. So, ito nga yun, si L. Pwede mong pahabain yung wings mo or yung fuselage mo. By reducing drag and improving airflow characteristics, designers can significantly improve endurance, range, and flight stability even when operating at low Reynolds number. These considerations are especially important for micro air vehicles and other small UAV platforms. The next, we have structures and mechanisms. The smaller scale of UAVs often reduces structural loads, allowing lighter construction methods. So, historically, aircraft structures evolved from tubular frameworks to monocoque aluminum structures and eventually to advanced composite materials. Today, composites are widely used in UAVs because they provide high strength and low weight, corrosion resistance, and excellent structural efficiency. These characteristics make them ideal for modern UAV airframes. So, composite materials have become common in UAV construction because they increase payload capability without significantly increasing aircraft weight. Reducing structural weight creates opportunities for additional fuel, larger payloads, or improved endurance. This is particularly important in surveillance and reconnaissance missions where maximizing our flight time is the number one priority. So nakikita nyo, na-apply nyo naman to sa paggawa ng UAVs nyo ngayon na in order to compensate sa mababang strength to weight ratio ng foam board, since it is very brittle and easy to break, ina-applyan natin siya ng fiber na tape, no? So we don't just use regular adhesive tools in creating our UAVs, no? So we reinforce them with composite materials nang sa ganun tumaas pa rin yung strength to weight ratio ng kabuuan ng aircraft natin. Then next, although traditional aircraft designs principles still apply, UAVs introduce unique structural challenges. Designers must consider manufacturing simplicity, cost, reliability, accessibility, maintenance, and service life. So, unlike manned aircraft, UAVs generally cannot rely on onboard crew for inspections or troubleshooting during flight. Therefore, structural layouts must support easy maintenance and high reliability from the outset. So, unlike ng traditional manned aircrafts natin, na yung mga components ay malalaki, yung parts ay accessible or madaling hawakan ng kamay, even the cargo spaces, kayang pumasok ang isang tao, no, para mag-inspect sa loob. Pagdating sa UAVs, we can't do the same. So, since yung mga components natin ay maliliit to the point na yung minsan yung iba pa nga, hindi na natin mahawakan ng maayos kasi sa sobrang liit niya. So, in order to provide access to the internal systems, we need to make sure or ang isang solution natin ay mag-apply ng mga large removable panels na nakakasira naman sa structural integrity ng UAV natin. For example, itong given na UAV na to sa figure, yan. Since hindi mo naman kayang dito mo i-observe, no, sa mga malilit na butas, dyan mo i-observe yung components mo pag in case na may masira. Ang only option mo ay gawing kalahati, magkaroon ka ng lower half and upper half ng UAV mo. Then yung upper half, yun yung pwedeng matanggal para maging accessible sa'yo yung kabuuan na components. Ngayon, that solves the problem. Kaso, nag-introduce siya ng bagong problem. Since hinati mo yung kabuuan ng UAV mo into upper half and lower half, nasisira ngayon yung kabuuan na structural integrity ng UAV mo. No? So, there's no other way for you to solve that. Again, when we are designing aircrafts, never tayo makaka-achieve niyan ng perfect na aircraft, mapa-UAV man yan or manned aircraft, no? Lagi tayong kailangan mamili kung ano yung willing tayong i-sacrifice, then ano yung gusto nating ano yung mas gusto nating ma-achieve, okay? So, sa ibang design naman, instead of implementing large removable panels tulad nung nandito sa unang figure, ang ginagawa ay hinahati sa iba't ibang maliliit na components yung kabuuan ng aircraft. So, pagdating naman sa ganun, hindi mo masasabing bumaba yung structural integrity ng parts mo kasi buo pa rin sila. Instead, nagkakaroon ka ngayon naman ng major stress areas doon sa connection ng components mo, no? So, again, depende yan sa mission profile ng UAV nyo kung ano yung mas importante sa inyo, yung accessibility ba ng parts or yung structural integrity ng aircraft nyo. The next, proceed naman tayo sa structure design. Although smaller UAVs benefit from improved stiffness, maintaining manufacturing tolerances becomes more challenging. Designers, therefore, use larger safety margins around the joints and critical structural elements. Fatigue and wear must also be considered because repeated flight cycles gradually weaken materials. Composite materials are particularly valuable because they offer excellent fatigue resistance and long service life. So, kanina pa nababanggit si composite materials, again, tulad nung carbon tube nyo, na regardless, hindi naman regardless, pero kahit sabihin natin ilang beses yung mag-crash, hindi basta-basta mababali yung carbon tube nyo. So, ayun nga, nabanggit na rin naman na to nila Sir Kin nung tinuturuan kayong magbuo ng UAV nyo, na yung mga specific areas na nagre-receive ng major stresses natin, doon dapat tayo nag-a-apply or mas fino-focus nating i-increase yung structural strength or integrity nung parts na yun. Kaya doon tayo nag-a-apply nung fiber tape, doon tayo naglalagay ng balsa wood, no? So, yun lang naman sinasabi dito. The next, in components subjected to repeated loading, fatigue becomes a major concern. Steel or bakal remains useful for critical parts because many steels possess an endurance limit, meaning they can theoretically survive infinite load cycles if stresses remain below a certain threshold. So, sa structures natin, di ba, meron tayong natawag na maximum stress or maximum load na kayang i-carry nung steel component natin. So, ang sinasabi lang dito, theoretically, yung steel mo, unless mag-a-apply ka dyan ng external force na lalagpas doon sa maximum load na kaya niyang i-carry, yung steel mo, mag-e-exist yan or magtatagal siya ng infinitely. No? So, hindi siya nasisira. Pero, realistically naman, hindi yun totoo, no? So, pagdating sa steel, kalaunan, nagko-corrode yan. Kahit sabihin natin, ingat ka sa UAV mo, yung steel parts yan, magko-corrode yan, which weakens your steel component. Another disadvantage of using steel is it is very heavy compared to composite materials. So, although matibay nga siya, pero yung ibang composite materials din naman halos kasing tibay lang din ng steel. Pero at the same time, yung composite materials natin mas magaan. So, in designing UAVs, we rarely use steel components, especially kung maliliit lang yung UAVs natin and magaan lang yung payload na kaya nilang i-carry. So, in your case, sa pagbuo ng UAVs nyo, we use nga yung composite materials like your carbon fiber tube, pati balsa wood, na hindi siya kasing tibay, yung balsa wood hindi siya kasing tibay ng steel, pero since magaan lang nga naman yung all-up mass or payload na kailangan i-carry ng UAVs nyo, enough na yung strength ng balsa wood without compromising your strength to weight ratio. Okay? The next, proceed tayo sa undercarriage designs. The undercarriage or landing gear serves two primary purposes. One is to absorb landing impact and to provide stability on the ground. UAV landing gear must often withstand harsher landing conditions because remote pilots cannot always judge altitude and touchdown conditions as accurately as onboard pilots. Designers therefore recommend tolerating impact velocities of at least 2 meters per second. So, yun. And provide a maximum 2 meters per second with decelerations up to 4 times the gravity or 4 Gs. So, kung mapapansin nyo, medyo malaki yung 4G, no? Isipin nyo dapat kayang mag-withstand ng 4 Gs yung landing gear nyo. Since, yun nga, Nung nagpalipad nga kami last sem, nung second sem, yung ginagawa nung iba dun, almost, hindi lang iba halos lahat na sila, since hindi nga kaya mag-take off sa runway. Ginagawa nila, hand launching na. So, hinahagis sila. Then, nangyayari, pagkahagis, rekta bagsak. So, ayun. And, nangyayari pa dun, hindi yung landing gear or yung undercarriage yung sumasalo ng impact, kasi pagka-crash ang tumatama yung nose, no? So nasisira agad yung propellers nila and yung nose part ng aircraft nila. So ayun, siguro when you're building your UAV, try to consider rin na gawin yung nose part ng UAV nyo, kaya rin sanang sumalo ng up to 4 Gs, no? Tulad ng landing gears nyo. Nang sa ganun, kahit sabihin natin pinalipad nyo siya tas nag-crash, nose dive, hindi agad masisira yung nose part ng UAV nyo. Kasi ganun yung na-observe ko nung last time nga. Nasira agad yung mga propellers nila and even the sensors na nasa harap ng UAV nila. So, lalong hindi lumipad. The next, for shipboard operations naman, ito, hindi naman to applicable sa atin. Unang-una, wala naman tayong aircraft carrier, no, sa Pilipinas. And kahit sa inyo, ngayong pagbuo niya ng UAV, meron naman tayong runway. Pero additional information na lang din. For shipboard operations, landing gear requires greater damping and deflection to accommodate deck motion. Retractable landing gear may be used to reduce drag, and the direction of retraction can affect aircraft stability. Ground conditions also influence wheel size and tire pressure. So, for example, ang runway mo ay ganito, na merong medyo maputik-putik, so malambot yung lupa natin. Soft surfaces require larger wheels, while naval environments create additional challenges from turbulence and deck movement. So, yun nga, alam ko binanggit ko rin to sa inyo nung binabantayan ko kayong gumawa ng UAV. Sinasuggest ko na since doon nga tayong papalipad sa Batangas, sa Paradas, no? Yung runway kasi doon, hindi siya flat na even surface. So, para siyang damuhan. So, medyo malambot din yung lupa and baku-baku siya. So, it is better na yung landing gear nga na gagamitin nyo ay mas malalaking wheels. No? So, hindi rin naman kayo pwede dyan mag-incorporate ng mga undercarriage design or landing gear na ganyan. Pa tayo sumulat. Yan, ganyan. Parang mga skid style. Kasi, di naman kayo VTOL no? So kayo conventional takeoff and landing. So matic yan, meron kayong wheels. And given the condition nga na parang damuhan nga yung papaliparan natin, sana na-incorporate nyo na by now na mas malalaki nga yung wheels dapat na gagamitin nyo. And finally, undercarriage complexity affects aircraft weight. Siyempre, kung meron kang retractable landing gears, more components, sabihin natin dito sa undercarriage design mo. More components means heavier design. So, heavier design, kailangan stronger power plant ka. Stronger power plant, heavier design na naman, no? So, ayun, kailangan nyo lang tawag dito, ma-accommodate lahat ng mga mission requirement ng aircraft nyo. The next, proceed tayo sa power plant. So, the power plant is one of the most important systems in any UAV because it directly influences performance, endurance, reliability, and mission capability. So, na-encounter naman review na lang to. Na-encounter na natin to before pa. Third year and fourth year, no? So, nagkaroon tayo ng power plant 1 and 2. Ito, basic review na lang siya since yung design nga ng UAVs natin, almost same lang siya sa design ng manned aircraft. Mas maliit nga lang. So, sa inyo, we are using electric motors. Unlike before na ang pinapagamit sa kanila ay mga miniature na piston engines or gas engines. So, ang pagkakalam ko naman, mas malakas yung thrust to weight ratio ng mga engines na electric. So, mas magaan yung electric motors kumpara dun sa miniature na gas piston engines. Tapos, mas malakas pa yung thrust na mapaproduce niya. So, the UAV power plant includes 3 major elements. Sorry, naputol yung recording. So, next. A UAV power plant includes 3 major elements. An energy source, then a device that converts that energy into mechanical power, and a propulsion system that generates thrust or lift. Piston engines remain common in UAVs. Two-stroke engines produce power every crankshaft revolution, offering high power-to-weight ratios but higher fuel consumptions. Four-stroke engines naman, on the other hand, generate power every other revolution but are generally more fuel efficient. So, review again. Four-stroke engine tsaka two-stroke. Anong main difference? Pag four-stroke, yan yung mga gas ang ginagamit or kerosene. Pag two-stroke, matic yan, diesel. Ano pang main difference sila? Pag four-stroke, pag tinignan mo yung makina, merong spark plug. Kapag two-stroke, wala. So, bakit sinabi na higher fuel consumption yung two-stroke engine? So, unahin natin kay four-stroke. Kay four-stroke engine, first stroke mo ay from top dead center to bottom dead center yung piston head mo. So, lumalaki yung volume. Ngayon, magbubukas din yung intake valve mo. Mag-i-spray ng fuel air mixture. Then, next stroke, from bottom dead center, pupunta sa top dead center, yung piston head mo. Usually, ang itsura ng cylinder niyan ganito. Then, sa gitna, meron kang spark plug. Ayan, spark plug yan. Then, dito, sa gilid, meron kang inlet valve. Tsaka, exhaust valve. Ngayon, yun, second stroke, from bottom dead center, aangat yung piston head mo to top dead center. Compressing your fuel air mixture. Pag tumataas ang pressure, tumataas yung temperature. So, pag mataas yung temperature, pag gumana na yung spark plug mo, mag-i-ignite yung fuel air mixture mo. Then, magko-combust sa sabog. Bababa ulit from top dead center, from top dead center to bottom dead center. Yun yung power stroke. So, pangatlo na yun. Pangatlong phase na. Pagkababa, ayun yung power stroke na tinatawag kasi nga, meron kang external force na nagpagalaw doon sa piston head mo. The next, from bottom dead center, aangat ulit to your top dead center. Magbubukas sa exhaust valve. Lalabas ngayon si exhaust gases natin. Unlike kay two-stroke, ang itsura ng makina niyan ganito. Ayan, wala siyang spark plug. So, pagbababa from top dead center to bottom dead center, papasok si fuel air mixture. Then pagkaangat, sabay na lumalabas yung exhaust gas mo from your previous stroke. Then, pag lumagpas na dyan, Babaan natin ng konti ito. Sorry. Natin ganyan. Yan. Tapos si top dead center mo lagpas dito. So, kung i-visualize nyo yan, natatakpan niya. Natatakpan niya yung exhaust valve. So, sa kalagitnaan ng process ng compression stage, napupush na rin si exhaust gas. Then, pagka-compress, recta ignite ulit, power stroke, bubukas ulit si inlet valve. So, kung i-visualize nyo, tuloy-tuloy siya, no? Kaya nga, every 2 stroke, meron kang energy or meron kang power stroke. Dito ay 4 stroke, every other stroke ka merong or nakakapaggawa ng power. Kaya nga, sinasabi ko kanina, kay 2-stroke engine, mas mataas yung power output niya. Kasi imagine, every stroke, meron kang power. Unlike a 4-stroke na every other cycle. So, mas mataas talaga yung power niya. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo yung mga diesel engine na sasakyan, mga Montero, Fortuner, malalakas yung hatak, di ba? Malalakas yung power nila kumpara sa mga 4 cylinders na 4-stroke engines. So, ang disadvantage naman ng 2-stroke, hindi nga siya fuel efficient. Kasi kung makikita nyo kanina, nagko-compress pa lang siya, compression stage pa lang, pero nakabukas na sa exhaust valve mo. So, tendency niyan, kasama sa lumalabas sa exhaust valve mo, bukod dun sa burnt gases, ay yung fresh na fuel-air mixture. So, yun nga, bababa yung fuel efficiency niya. So, next, meron din tayong tinatawag na, yan, basically sasabi lang yan yung kanina. Step piston engine. So, step piston engines naman attempt to combine the advantages of both designs, although they remain largely experimental in UAV applications. So, si step piston engine, para siyang 4-stroke na 2-stroke. So, basically, pinaghahalo niya yung dalawang advantage nung 4-stroke and 2-stroke. So, it has the high power to weight ratio ng 2-stroke and the fuel efficiency ng 4-stroke engine natin. So, meron din tayong tinatawag na rotary engine. So, familiar na rin to sa inyo. Si rotary engine, kung makita nyo, triangular siya na cylinder. So, ang nangyayari kasi kay rotary engine, continuous. Sabay-sabay nangyayari yung intake, compression, tsaka combustion. So, umiikot yan yung triangular na yan. You can search for video sa YouTube kung paano siya gumagana. Pero, basically, yun nga, continuous, sabay-sabay nangyayari yung intake, compression, tsaka combustion. Okay? So, another type ng power plant, syempre meron tayong gas turbine engines. So, gas turbine engines offer smoother operations and lower vibrations. Turbojet engines generate direct thrust. Ito, anong pinagkaiba ng turbojet sa turbofan? Hindi ko alam kung natanong ko na rin to dati sa inyo. Lumalabas to sa boards. So, si turbojet, ito, I'm sure turbojet to. Itong engine na nandito sa picture. Turbojet, ang thrust na napoproduce niya ay majority, siguro sabihin natin 90% mula sa exhaust gas na nilalabas niya. So, yung exhaust gas na yan yung nagbibigay ng thrust. Unlike kay turbofan. So, makikita nyo sa tawag dito sa mga commercial aircrafts, mga A320, no? A380, kahit yung ibang mga Boeing na commercial aircrafts. Pag nakita nyo yung engine section nun, yung mismong gas turbine engine, yan, kunyari yun. Tapos, yung first stage ng fan niya, sobrang laki. Ganyan. Ganyan kalaki yung fan niya. So, ang nangyayari doon, unlike kay turbojet na yung thrust niya ay galing lang sa exhaust gases, sa kanya, majority ng thrust na napoproduce ng engine ay galing sa bypass air. So, si bypass air, siya yung air na naihigop ng engine mo pero hindi dumadaan sa combustion chamber, no? So, ito yung bypass air mo. Yan yung majority nagpo-produce ng thrust ng aircraft mo. So, mas efficient at moderate cruising speed, unlike kay turbojet na mas efficient siya at very high velocity. So, the next examples include Global Hawk, which uses a turbofan engine, and the Predator B, which uses a turboprop type configuration powered by a turbine engine. So, ito turbofan siya. So, hindi lang siguro masyadong kita dito. Kung titignan nyo yung figure, parang kasing laki lang siya, no? Pero, I'm sure, ito kasi casing itong nasa picture eh. Pero, I'm sure niyan, yung mismong engine niya, mas manipis lang, maliit lang na ganyan. Okay, so the choice of a turbofan and turboprop engine for the HALE and MALE aircraft, respectively, is appropriate since both aircraft, being at the upper range of size for UAV, require more powerful engines than those that a smaller and medium range aircraft. So proceed tayo sa modular construction. Modular construction is a major advantage in UAV design because it simplifies manufacturing, testing, maintenance, and upgrading. So pag sabing modular, yung kayang bitbitin kahit saan. So in order for us na maging modular yung design natin, syempre dapat nahihiwalay, kung hindi natutupi yung design, nahihiwalay into different smaller parts para kayang bitbitin. So, in smaller UAVs, modules typically include the payload, electronics, power plant, and lifting surfaces. This can be removed individually using quick release mechanisms. So, make sure nyo na yung magiging design nyo rin ay modular, no? Kasi kung hindi yan nahihiwa-hiwalay, dapat mabitbit nyo yan sa paradas ng buo siya. As is. So, kung meron kayong pick-up truck, good for you. Pero kung wala, di ko alam kung paano yung pagkakasyahin sa kotse. So, when payloads are changed, designers must ensure proper weight balance so that aircraft stability remains unchanged. So, next. For larger UAVs such as MALE systems, modular construction becomes more complex since kung makikita nyo yung itsura ng HALE and MALE natin, malalaking aircraft yan and mabibigat. So, good luck na magawa nyo yan ng magawa nyo siyang modular na hiwa-hiwala yung parts. And pagdating kasi sa mga HALE and MALE UAVs, no, hindi siya priority na gawing modular. Kasi kung maaalala nyo sa discussion natin, pagdating sa HALE and MALE UAVs, meron yang fixed na airbase. So, meron silang sariling hangar. So, hindi nyo kailangang bitbitin yan sa iba't ibang lugar, tapos doon yung ipapa-take off and landing. Since meron nga silang designated air bases na doon sila magte-take off and landing, hindi siya priority na gawing modular. Okay? So, equipment must be strategically placed to maintain balance, reduce cable lengths, and minimize electromagnetic interference. So, modularity also enables the same mission systems to be installed on different airframes, reducing cost and improving operational flexibility. However, this approach introduces challenges related to defining the primary module and build standards for airworthiness compliance. To address this, each module is assigned a letter and serial number, contributing to a comprehensive build standard document. So, hindi pa natin ito masyadong kailangang i-consider since ito kasi, yung part na yan, nasa ano na siya nasa, di ba meron tayong conceptual, preliminary, tsaka detailed design. So, ito, kino-consider na yan pagdating sa detailed design. Kasi, di ba, nabanggit na rin yan sa inyo ni Sir Kin or ni Sir Bao, I'm sure, na itong ginagawa natin hanggang matapos tayo, nasa Ano lang tayo, preliminary design. Hindi tayo dadating sa detailed design. Si detailed design phase, yun yung part naming mga instructor. So, inaayos namin yung mga TRs nyo, pati yung mismo. Kaya nga pinapaiwan yung mga UAVs nyo di ba? Hindi yan para sa amin na kukunin namin yung parts. Hindi ganun. Kailangan namin siyang i-modify ulit. And ma-finalize yung mismong design. Aayusin yung ibang parts na kulang or mali. Then, gagawa namin siya ng study or paper na hanggang detailed design yung cover ng paper na yun. So, ancillary equipment refers to the supporting components required for safe and effective UAV operation. These include actuators, batteries, sensors, alternators, antennas, lighting systems, and fasteners. So, large UAVs can often... Saan ba yun? Dito pa pala. Large UAVs can often use equipment similar to that found in manned aircraft. However, smaller UAVs use equipment that face significant challenges because conventional aviation equipment is often too large and heavy. So, equipment approved for manned aircraft is often too heavy and large for smaller UAVs. This issue has historically led UAV manufacturers to develop and certify their equipment. So, ang sinasabi lang dito, since yung mga components nga na ginagamit for larger aircrafts or manned aircrafts ay masyadong malalaki para magamit sa UAV. Ngayon, yung mga manufacturer ng UAV, hindi lang UAV itself yung minamanufacture nila. Instead, even the interior components ng UAV nila, minamanufacture nila individually and pinoproduce nang sa ganun, yung mga UAVs natin, pare-parehas yung mga components nila. For example, itong si DJI, yung ibang components niya, pwedeng magamit sa mga sister UAVs na pinoproduce ng DJI din. So, ganun. Pero, I doubt na yung components nito, yung major components niya, pwedeng i-apply sa ibang manufacturing companies. So, syempre, tawag dito, business strategy yun na, syempre, di naman pwedeng same components lahat tulad ng sa ibang manufacturing companies. Malulugi sila doon kasi syempre, ang bibili ng mga tao yung mas murang component para magawa yung mga UAV nila or drone nila. The next, we have last, design for stealth. Stealth aims to reduce the probability of detection. No? From the word itself, stealth. UAV designers focus on 4 primary signatures: acoustic, visual, thermal, and radar signatures. Acoustic stealth reduces noise generated by engines and propellers. So, if you want to lessen the acoustic signature ng UAV mo, again, from the word acoustic, dapat less noise yung mapoproduce niya. Then, visual stealth minimizes visibility through shape, size, and camouflage. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, yung mga stealthy na mga aircraft, usually ang mga design niyan or kulay niyan, yung mga dark colors or very white colors. Para nagbe-blend sila sa ulap. The next, thermal stealth reduces infrared emissions from engines and exhaust systems. So, kung mapapansin nyo rin, pagdating sa mga stealth aircrafts, yung engine nila, hindi nakalabas, no? Nakatago yan. Naka-integrate yan sa fuselage nila. Para naka-cover. Hindi madaling ma-detect yung thermal signature ng engines nila. The next, radar stealth lowers radar cross-section through shaping and specialized materials. So, binababaan yung radar signature ng mga stealth na aircraft. And according to our reference book na sinulat ni Austin, stealth design is particularly important for military UAVs. operating in contested environments because survivability depends heavily on avoiding detection. So, si stealth na part ng design phase ng UAVs. Very critical siya pagdating sa designing na or manufacturing ng military UAVs, no? Kasi again, when we are using UAVs, ang main agenda natin is to improve efficiency while reducing our cost. Kasi kung isipin nyo, surveillance ang gagamitin mo ay F-22 Raptor. Bukod sa mas mahal siya, yung manufacturing cost niya, mahal din yung operating cost niya. So, kada lipad, magkano yung nagagastos na gas. Bukod pa doon, meron ka pang piloto na kailangang i-train, then papasahuran mo. Tapos, pag namatay pa or nag-crash yung aircraft mo, baliwala lang lahat nung ginastos mo doon sa pilot mo. So, again, pagdating sa drone, nasosolve natin yun. Pero kung yung drone mo ay hindi stealthy, madaling ma-target, madaling mapabagsak ng kalaban, baliwala lang din. Kasi, imagine, yung Global Hawk na ipoproduce mo, sabi natin although mas mura siya sa F-22 Raptor, pero isang lipad lang naman bagsak na, diba? Baliwala lang din, mas mapapagastos ka lang din in the long run. So ayun nga, when your mission profile requires if your mission profile involves surveillance, reconnaissance, it is better na you incorporate stealth in your design. Sa ganun, ma-make sure mo na magagawa ng UAV mo yung main agenda niya, which is to be more efficient and more cost effective. Okay, so that summarizes our discussion for Module 5 ng UAS. Thank you for listening and panoorin niyo yung next recorded lecture. Thank you.